What are the fundamental similarities and differences between RoboCop and RoboCop 2 programs? What is Murphy's main technological advantage? And finally, what did OCP do to Cain's body? This video answers these and other fascinating questions related to the movie RoboCop 2. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up, it means a lot to me. A man who was forced to go to work even after his death. Yes, that's a frequent joke about RoboCop that we can hear. But of course, there's a grain of truth in every joke. The truth about Alex Murphy is that no one forced him to go to work after his death. He does it of his own free will, as strange as that may sound. Yes, this is the secret behind the successful implementation of RoboCop 1 project that is revealed in the second part of the franchise. An enormous sense of duty is what makes Alex Murphy, in the form of RoboCop, the best of his kind. What's the phrase that Murphy says most often? Right, I have to go. And no matter what happens, he will get up and go fulfill his duty. The plot of the sequel revolves around OCP's desire to advance the implementation of RoboCop 2 project. However, from a plot perspective, we as viewers do not get a comprehensive answer to what made RoboCop 1 program outdated after just a year of operation. Yes, OCP is a totally corrupt organization with aspirations of the most unprincipled, artistically speaking, corporation. Nevertheless, the global goal of creating RoboCop 1 was quite clear: to clean the streets of Detroit from rampant crime. And RoboCop 1 accomplishes this task with maximum efficiency. Yes, OCP wanted to equip RoboCop 2 with greater firepower, but why not simply endow Murphy himself with that firepower, since he turned out to be the only successful candidate? The answer to this question is more clearly revealed in Frank Miller's RoboCop comic. Frank Miller was one of RoboCop 2's screenwriters, and in the aforementioned comic, he laid out his vision of RoboCop 2 plot in full. So, the reason for OCP's dissatisfaction with Murphy's candidacy is extremely simple. He just does not fully follow their orders. Murphy is always on the side of the people, earning their trust. He refuses to disperse the strike of brewery workers and does not assist OCP special forces in evicting citizens from their homes. Murphy's interested in hunting down criminals, not infringing on the rights and freedoms of peaceful residents. Yes, some of these Frank Miller's plot points were used in RoboCop 3. RoboCop is a machine enhanced by Officer Murphy's traits of character, and no prime directives can override them. OCP uses officially dead officers who were good cops in their lifetime as candidates for RoboCop 2 project, but their consciousness refuses to accept themselves in this new, unnatural form. However, OCP's new top manager, Dr. Juliet Fax, insists on searching for candidates among a different sort of people. People who crave power and virtual immortality. That is, among criminals, over whom they'll definitely have certain levers of control. And without straying too far from the visual aspects of RoboCop 2 project, no matter how negative a person Bob Morton may have been, his implementation of RoboCop project became the most successful in the company's history, not only in terms of Officer Murphy's successful candidacy. While his colleagues, starting from Ed 209 project, aimed to create monstrous robots that scare criminals, he sought to create a cyborg that would not evoke fear in ordinary citizens. And he was right about that. Yes, criminals often don't take Murphy seriously, but that's only during their first encounter, which by the way turns out to be the last for most of them. His reputation and effectiveness are what speak for him, and every citizen knows this. Citizens trust Robo so much that a RoboCop mayor in this universe doesn't sound so crazy, especially if we follow the ideas of RoboCop Rogue City. By the way, that's a pretty good idea for a separate video. Strangely enough, Bob Morton and his team's visual and technical solutions also prevented Murphy from going insane. From the comments of the creators of the first film, we know that they kept Murphy's face for certain purposes, and socializing RoboCop among citizens was not the main one. Sooner or later, Murphy would see himself without the helmet, and if he sees his old face under the helmet, rather than bare mechanics, it might save him from a program and mental breakdown. And Bob Morton's team was also right about this. Now let's imagine what Murphy might feel if, sooner or later, he saw something like this in the reflection. Perhaps he would go insane indeed. The human-like appearance of RoboCop 1 is yet another significant secret behind his successful operation. It's strange that the curator of RoboCop 2, Dr. Fax, didn't understand this, being a psychologist. Or did she understand? Yes, she understood that a substance-dependent, unprecedentedly violent criminal with a potential inclination towards virtual immortality who considers himself a religious messiah would calmly accept himself as a monster. Crime lord Cain, responsible responsible for the distribution of a banned substance called Nuke, finds himself in the hands of Dr. Fax on the brink of life and death. His addiction makes him a suitable candidate for her because she thinks he can be controlled. She forcibly disconnects Cain from life support equipment and demands that the medical team extract Cain's brain within 6 minutes. What Cain is in these shots, what is physically left of him, is practically the same as what is physically left of Murphy himself. Yes, all that's left of Officer Murphy is his brain, remnants of his nervous system, a part of his spinal cord with vertebrae, and his face. Murphy's face was placed on the metal head of the robot. Metal and mechanisms, not bones and muscles as many think, are behind his face. In these shots from Rogue City, it is clear what Murphy's head actually is. Yes, the developments in RoboCop 2 are indeed the work of Bob Morton himself. However, the difference is that initially, Bob Morton and his team did not understand what RoboCop would technically look like in the end. They made decisions about replacing body parts with prosthetics during the process, ultimately leaving Murphy with the same brain, face, and remnants of his nervous system. In other words, these parts of Murphy's body were not immediately placed in a test tube as was in Cain's case. All modifications to Murphy were made around his brain. Let's say the brain always remained in its place, in a body that became increasingly robotic. Cain, like Murphy, kept a part of his spinal cord, while the missing part was compensated by technology, by wires. In this case, his modified spinal cord will function as it would in an ordinary person. Its function is to ensure neural connection between the brain and the new body. At this moment, Cain's spinal cord is not integrated with his new body, so theoretically, he should not be able to physically is the main word here, perceive himself in a given environment yet. And what exactly he feels during this moment is likely beyond human comprehension. Perhaps it can be described as unprecedented existential horror. An interesting thing, at the moment, Cain still has his organic eyes, but in the design of Cyborg Cain, he will not have them. They preserved his eyes at this stage specifically for his brain to be able to perceive itself in space somehow. This was necessary to maintain its biological viability. Now, a question arises. If OCP's technology allows for the complete replacement of a candidate's nervous system with technological analogs, then why keep elements of a living spinal cord? After all, this ultimately causes RoboCop to feel pain. Physical pain familiar to us. Why do RoboCops need it? Yes, OCP intentionally makes RoboCops sensitive to pain and suffering. This is a necessary control lever for them. In Murphy's case, physical pain is a response to his attempts to resist classified directives. In Cain's case, it serves to preserve the consequences of his addiction for control purposes. By the way, remember at the end of Rogue City, we will be fighting RoboCop 2, who this time will be controlled by Old Man's brain. Throughout the game, we may catch the hints that the cyborg, Old Man, is already devoid of such a weakness as human pain. New developments during Afterlife Project show that the spinal cords were no longer removed from the candidates' bodies. Lungs were used instead. And the doses of nuke that Cyborg Cain takes at once are incredibly huge. The film tells us he can make an entire neighborhood addicted to nuke with that amount. Why does he need so much? I have a crazy theory that such a dose of nuke in this case is not only a means to satisfy Cain's addiction, but also a way to fuel his other vital processes, similar to baby food for Murphy. Yes, it is crazy, but more crazy theories for the crazy theories god. So, RoboCop 2 project took that very path, which was a radical departure from Bob Morton's one. They created a monster, basically a military monster, to sort out the mess on the streets of Detroit. After all, we remember that the main goal of OCP is to profit from military technologies. RoboCop 2 is the next stage in the development of Ed 209 program. It's a large robot equipped with great firepower, but already devoid of the main weakness of its predecessor, sluggishness. Here OCP's progress is evident. RoboCop 2 is even capable of climbing vertical surfaces quite skillfully. Cyborg Cain already requires a substantial power source to operate, which is in a visible place and clearly marked for the delight of his opponents. Of course, we will take advantage of this weakness in Rogue City. And there is one more significant aspect in which new OCP managers failed to surpass Bob Morton. It is the thing that finally turned out to be Cyborg Cain's main weakness and where Murphy clearly has an advantage. Remember, in the first half of the film, Cain's gang captured Murphy and literally tore him apart. They could only disassemble him at the joint connections, or more precisely at the points of technical joints. From the gang's dialogues, we understand that they even tried to reach his brain, but they couldn't, even though they had plenty of time and heavy tools. And this saved Murphy's life. Yes, if we analyze the footage of mutilated Murphy, it doesn't seem like they were trying to open his metal head, but based on the context, they were likely trying to. And what turned out to be Murphy's strength became Cain's weakness. Murphy catches Cain off guard and reaches his brain without much effort, the vital organ of any RoboCop. And by the way, even Old Man did not fix this weakness. But in any case, the story of RoboCop 2 is not a story of virtual immortality. It's a story telling us that we are only human. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, it means a lot to me.